Hey guys, have two unrelated but connected topics today. You'll see what I mean in a minute. First one is National Geographic. Has to be one of the most intelligent, informative, worthwhile magazines ever made. 125 years of exploration, it says at the top of the cover. So, as you guys probably know, National Geographic Society was a group of rich people who decided that they'd start sponsoring other people for doing scientific research and scientific exploration and stuff. So these guys have been connected to exploration going on all over the world for 125 years and have achieved a lot of really worthwhile stuff, as well as far as advancing humankind and as far as informing us, and showing us stuff. And I think those of you who've seen this magazine will know what I'm talking about. Just quality, it's really quality, intelligent stuff. And very interesting and very worthwhile and very educational. Fabulous. And their documentaries, their TV documentaries have always been the same, Da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. Oh, here we go. Here comes some quality viewing, But I subscribe to National Geographic on YouTube because of their amazing documentaries, like archaeology and space exploration and ocean exploration and history and, just really intelligent stuff, modern advances in technology and, brilliant. It's always been some of the most worthwhile television ever made, in my opinion, intelligent stuff, National Geographic. They've got into reality TV. Unbelievable. So my subscription box is currently full of bullshit from National Geographic. And most is just like 2-minute promos, 2-minute promotions, like little commercials for the documentaries, or not documentaries, for the shows. They've become shows. And I've got into the two that are filling my subscription box at the moment. Is one of them is they're following around some tree loppers, so some fools who cut trees down for a living. And I'm only saying they're fools because the episodes that have appeared in my box is one is Josh almost gets hit by a tree branch, and because 1.5 minute thing, so I watched it, and sure enough, that's what it was. Someone cuts a branch off a tree and it almost hits Josh. And that's it. A National Geographic. Unbelievable. The people who put the money up for these guys, so a lot of people put National Geographic in their wills so that when they die, lots of money goes to National Geographic, and lots of other rich people who haven't died give them money every year as well to further their scientific research, because these guys don't do it directly. These guys give grants to other people who do it. So, really worthwhile. And there must be a lot of people who've given these people money who are really disappointed right now, seeing Josh almost hit by a tree branch. Why is that a National Geographic thing? It's just so disappointing. Obviously what's happened is they've managed to keep their integrity with the magazine. The magazine's still quality. They haven't sold it out at all. It's still good quality, and intelligent reading and intelligent stories and interesting stories as well. And they've managed to keep their integrity with that, because obviously that must be an audience, a demographic of people who can read. But they've obviously decided that for TV, the average person is less intelligent than this demographic. The TV demographic must be less intelligent. So they've got all this reality TV crap. Now, don't get me wrong, like reality TV can be entertaining, people who've got quiet lives, or people that, just want to watch some TV for a while and watch some reality TV. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with reality TV. The issue that I've got with it is, what the hell is National Geographic doing? I mean, if they're following around an adventurer who's getting ready to go and do an adventure, or following around some scientist that's working on some big problem, or some sort of National Geographic related type thing, then that would be fair enough. But following around a bunch of guys cutting down trees for a living is ridiculous. And then this is moving on to the second topic, related but unrelated topic, is the doomsday preppers. And again, nothing scientific or intelligent or anything about it at all. There's no connection between Doomsday Prepper reality TV and National Geographic. None at all. I mean, it's obvious that all they're doing is trying to just attract the dumbest common denominator. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, there's always someone who gets all emotional about this stuff. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a prepper or there's anything wrong with preparing for disasters, but it's not National Geographic. You know, some family that's locked themselves in a castle on top of a hill and they're preparing for the end of the world and all this sort of shit. Well, the one that triggered this video was the clown that he says there's so many tsunamis happening around the world every year, and once there was a 1,500-foot tsunami, which is true, there was, but I mean that's right back in history, right? But yeah, and it's going to happen again. So his solution to how to deal with potential disaster and a potential tsunami is he bought a $100,000 armored personnel carrier with a machine gun on top of it. That's the way he combats tsunami. And it's not like you'd think. It's not like that he thinks that he can get in it and that, you know, drive away from the tsunami, or that if he's in it he won't get killed by the tsunami. There was no mention of that. What it's for is so that he can assert authority. I think that's the way it was said. That he can assert authority in the aftermath of the tsunami. So in other words, he's anticipating that after the tsunami everybody's going to start killing each other, and that he's going to have his armoured personnel carrier that's all bulletproof. And this is the main topic that he talked about, was that his armoured personnel carrier is bulletproof, and it's got all these guns, and he can shoot other guns out through the side ports, and he's got the big machine gun on the top. And this is his solution to a potential disaster. Now, really interested to hear what you guys who live around the world, because I know from our demographics we've got subscribers that live all over the world, you know. And it's just an amazing attitude. So now we've moved on from National Geographic selling out and putting crap on TV, and we're moving on to the prepper thing, because I find it fascinating. In Australia we do have some survivalists in Australia, and I happen to know a couple of survivalists, and you know, live off on tops of mountains or out in the countryside, and have made themselves so that they're sort of independent, so they can survive without anybody else or requiring any sort of support from society. And they're survivalists, you know, and they exist. But the prepper thing, I'm really interested to hear that, you know, the prepper thing with the castles and the tanks and the guns, because living in Japan, you know, Japan's had more than its share of disasters. You know, we had two years ago we had the big Sendai disaster with the earthquake and the tsunami, and you know, before that we had the Kobe earthquake, wiped out, you know, a huge piece of Kobe City, and you know, and that's happened, big earthquakes and tsunami disasters and landslides, and I mean, you know, volcanoes, volcanic eruptions. You know, Japan's had its share of disasters. 2 atomic bombs wiping out 2 major cities. And the Japanese way to prepare for a disaster is as a community. So all over the place, in the big picture, the government has big warehouses of emergency rations and things, and then so does the city and the state, and then even in little areas like ours, it's all about, if there's a disaster, everybody comes together. That's all. That's the disaster planning. Is that if there's a disaster in this area, we all go to that school. And if there's a disaster in that area, everybody goes to the city hall. And if there's a disaster in that area, everyone goes to the gymnasium. Usually places up on hills, you know, sort of safe places. And that's the planning. And then in those places, we have emergency rations and water and first aid and all that sort of stuff. So it's all about surviving as a group. And I think you guys would recognise, if you look at different disasters that have happened around the world, the people that survive as a community, or that work as a community to solve the problems, survive it. And I mean, that's what you see when you look at the way the Japanese have handled it, Sendai, and there was no big fuss about that. Everybody just banded together. I mean, there's people who lost families, and it was tragic. But there was no fighting. After the disaster was over, as soon as it happened, everyone banded together as a group straight away. and worked as a group, and are still working as a group. You know, there was no looting or your large scale looting. There was people finding safes that had been washed out of other people's houses and handing them in. You know, there was a couple of reports of some individuals caught stealing. There was a couple of reports of that, but a couple of individuals, out of the whole lot. There was no looting. There was no attacking and raping. And I remember back in America in what was the flooding in Louisiana in where was it? New Orleans. In New Orleans, and everyone went to that community centre, and there was people getting raped and beaten and robbed, and there was looting in the supermarkets, and people stealing TVs and VCRs. Why you need a TV or a VCR to help you survive would be what? But that way of thinking just doesn't happen here. So it just seems to be a really unproductive solution to the problem. And I think if you look at human history, throughout human history, the way that we've worked the best as human beings is as groups. That we probably started off in really small groups and then slowly started to band together as bigger groups, and that's how we've achieved the most of the stuff that we've achieved. That's how we overcome problems. And you watch Japanese, and not just Japanese, people from other countries as well, when they have a big disaster. Banda Aceh, remember there was a big tsunami in Banda Aceh, and when it happened, there was actually a civil war going on when that happened, and there was people shooting each other, and then the tsunami came, boof, and everybody just stopped killing each other and all banded together and started to help each other. Came together as a group. Now, there were people who were shooting each other, and they stopped shooting each other to come together as a group and solve the problems. And so, there's never-ending amount of examples of this where coming together as a group is a solution. It's interesting that there's a whole heap of people that assume that if there's a big disaster, after that disaster everybody has to be killing each other, that you're going to need a castle on top of the hill to defend yourself with your guns and your bows and arrows and your tank with the big machine gun on the roof. Why do they assume that it has to go in that direction? In other places around the world it hasn't. But the sad thing is that I think the prepper thing, the gun prepper people, I'm not talking about the people who stuck food. We prepare for disasters in Japan. We've got our own prepper kit here in the house, but there's no guns in it. We don't need guns. We're not preparing to fight our neighbours. We're just preparing to have food and water if we need it, right? But the sad thing is about the gun prepper thing is that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because those people's preparation, the guy with the tank and the guy with the castle and all the other people who have all built fortifications with guns and they're going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy because their plan involves guns. And their plan involves being stronger than everybody around them and defending themselves against everybody else. Now, with that preparation and that mindset in place, what's it going to be like if there is a big disaster? That's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone's going to break out their guns, and then as soon as different people start getting short of food, no, you're not coming in here. So instead of saying, okay, as a community, let's band together and let's solve the food problem, and if those people don't have food, let's give them some food and work together as a big group. And help solve problems. The solution's different. We've got our food and you're not having it. You go look after yourself. We look after ourselves. You go look after yourself. What's the end result going to be? These guys have some sort of Mad Max type image in mind. That's what it's going to end up like. Because as they start running out of food, they're going to start shooting each other, and eventually, it's going to be exactly like Mad Max, isn't it? And that's not because it has to be. It's just because that they've made up their mind that's the way it's going to be. That's why they need their tank and their castle. Unbelievable. Just a quick one. The Japanese solution to the tsunami thing was they developed a ball that's perfectly sealed and a big one. It's like a modern life raft from a modern boat. So it's totally sealed. So you just have it in your garden or have it set somewhere around the place. And when the tsunami's coming, because you usually have time, there's siren sound and you've got a few minutes. You go out, you get in it, you close the doors and do it up and put your seatbelt on, and the water comes in and you just ride it out. And then when the tsunami recedes again, you can open up the hatch and come out. So that was the solution. No violence or guns involved. But that's assuming that after the disaster that people will work together. They're not going to start shooting each other. So anyway, interested in your opinions, guys. You guys that come from all around the world, interested in hearing about how you think your country would deal with a big disaster, or how it has dealt with big disasters. So interested to hear if you've got preppers with guns in your country. I'm not talking about people preparing for disaster. Preparing for disaster is logical. It's preparing for the shootout I'm talking about. Preparing for the fight to the death as if it's inevitable. You know, do you think people in your country are going to react with violence if they have a disaster? Are they likely to go and loot the local electronics store, or do you think they'd work together and solve their problems instead of killing each other? Interested to hear what different people think their countries would do. And the other one is, let's have a moment's silence for National Geographic. What a disappointing thing that was. Interested in your opinions on that too. There we go. Preppers and National Geographic. More videos coming soon.